Hi guys, today's video is Geography of Sports Team Markets.
Ooh, this could be interesting.
I've got no idea what that means, if I'm being honest.
Where the sports team are from, I'm guessing.
Okay.
Which some of them should be quite easy. Like,
Okay.
I'm just off the top of my head, I'm thinking NFL teams. You're thinking like Kansas City
Like the
Chiefs. You're
names.
thinking, oh, from Kansas,
Okay.
you know what I mean? But I'm guessing maybe like Green Bay Packers. You wouldn't know where they're from. I think they're from Wisconsin.
Okay.
I think it's Wisconsin off the top of my head, but I guess it's like basically literally it's the geography of where that sports team's from.
Okay.
Don't know which sports. I'm assuming NFL, basketball, maybe baseball. I assume maybe the three, maybe hockey as well.
They're big ones, I guess, aren't they?
Yeah, but I don't know. It's Geography King. We like Geography King. Always a good channel to watch, and he is quite brutal. So he may go in on some of these sports teams. We don't know. He's been brutal in videos recently,
I
hasn't
couldn't
he?
say.
We don't know. Let's say, because in recent videos he has been a bit more brutal than we expect, hasn't he?
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. We do enjoy him, though. He is a legend. His link to the channel is in the description. But what should we do?
Wait until after this video.
Wait to watch this video. You ready to get into it?
Are you ready to get into it?
I am ready to get into it. Oh, so you ready to say it, was
What
you?
we got?
What we got?
my intro.
What's the video?
Geography of Sports Team Markers.
What we got? Let's go.
Howdy.
It's Kyle. Opposite way round. So we're opposite way round, aren't we?
Bad.
Howdy, it's Kyle discussing the geography of sports teams markets. And if you're someone that doesn't follow sports, this video isn't about the actual sports themselves, but rather the geographic sphere of influence that individual teams might have. And
Okay.
if you are someone that follows sports, you've probably heard the terms small market franchise or large market franchise. So
That's very
in
American,
this video,
that.
are we discussing what that actually means and confirming or debunking whether or not some of these teams actually are a small or large market? First, a few definitions. A metropolitan area is a city plus its suburbs and exurbs.
Okay.
A consolidated metropolitan area are multiple metros that are so large they've grown into each other. So this would be like Washington, Baltimore, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Dallas, Fort Worth, and there are many other ones like that in the country. A television market are those areas plus the surrounding rural areas. So essentially, when you turn your local news on, where's it coming from? And
Okay, that
finally,
makes
a
sense.
sports market is not necessarily any of those previous ones, but just a general sphere of influence that a certain team might have. And this is relevant because you don't have to be living within the metro area or the TV market to be contributing to that team. You could be way out in the sticks and you're still buying shirts and hats and jerseys and you're still paying for that expensive TV package to watch
Makes
all
sense.
the games. So you're still contributing financially to that team, even though you don't live in the immediate area. And the way things work nowadays, most teams get most of their money from TV. So it's ad
Yeah,
revenue
TV
that
deals
they're
are
making most of their
huge.
money from. So you don't have to be right in the town to be sending them money. As long as you're watching the game, watching those commercials, they're making money. And attendance is still important. Of course, teams want a full stadium or a full arena, but the teams can still make money even if the games aren't selling out. I'm not going to go over every market for every team, but I want to give an example of what I'm talking about when I say sports market. New York City is the largest metro in the U.S., and it consists of the 5 boroughs of New York City, the rest of Long Island, the northern half of New Jersey, the counties just north
New
of the
Jersey
Bronx,
as
so
well.
Westchester, Rockland, Putnam, and Orange, as well as Fairfield County, Connecticut. So that whole area has about 21 million people, which makes it by far the largest metro in the U.S.
I would have guessed, obviously I'm wrong, that anyone from New Jersey would not want to support any team associated with New York. And anyone in New
I
York
guess-
would want to do any team in New
I
Jersey.
guess it's like, for you, like South Yorkshire, like Rotherham and Sheffield.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to. That's what I mean. I wouldn't want to support any. Oh, I know people do, but I wouldn't want
But they're
to.
wrong.
But it's like a rivalry. I just assumed it was
Yeah.
the same, but obviously not. I guess not. Let us know in the comments what you
Obviously,
think.
everyone's happy for everyone.
Yeah.
But the New York
Which
City
is nice,
sports
isn't it?
market extend well beyond that metropolitan area. So people that live in, say, Syracuse, Albany, Binghamton, and other parts of the state often root for the New York City teams. And you're not going to find too many folks in Albany rooting for the Boston teams.
Okay.
For baseball and basketball, the New York City sports market extends pretty much the entire
them.
state of New
Yeah.
York, the
Yeah, we've seen
northern
them.
half of New Jersey, as well as Connecticut. So that's close to 30 million people in that sports market.
That's a
However,
lot of
in
people.
hockey,
Yeah.
there's a separate team that plays in Buffalo and one in New Jersey. So the New York City sports market doesn't extend as far in hockey as it does in
We've seen the
baseball
Rangers
and
too.
basketball. And for football, there's a separate team in Buffalo as well. Now, certainly the Buffalo area is not going to be anywhere near as large as the New York City area, but you're talking about the Buffalo, Niagara Falls metro area plus the Rochester area. So the whole western part of New York has about 3.5 million or so
building's
people. But
beautiful,
also
isn't it?
the
That is very nice.
southeastern portion of Ontario, Canada. But I'm not talking about Canada in this video, but some of those people that live on the Canadian
Ooh.
side of the Buffalo
Yeah,
area
of
are going to
course.
be rooting for Buffalo sports teams.
Okay,
So
that makes
obviously,
sense.
New York City is the largest metro and sports market in the country, but I wanted to use that just as an example because there are other ones that are a little more debatable. If I were
Okay.
to ask baseball fans, what's the second largest baseball market? Most people would probably say Los Angeles because it is the second largest metro area in the country, but it is in fact Atlanta.
Oh,
The Atlanta
wow.
Braves sphere of influence
I
is
wouldn't have
enormous.
guessed
It's
Atlanta.
basically the entire southeast outside of Florida. The Atlanta metro area alone has over 6 million people.
Yeah, they're that big aim at bottom right.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of them in there.
There is.
I'd have said the Cubs, just because we get so many Cubs fans messaging us, don't we?
Yeah.
So many people love
I'm
Chicago.
surprised they're so big.
Yeah. Like, I would have thought Cubs would have been massive, but they don't look that big. They're quite a small influence compared, aren't they, the Cubs?
Yeah.
That's quite shocking to me. I didn't. Texas obviously is Texas, isn't it?
What's the TC?
The TC.
The top.
Ooh, I don't know. I don't know what they're called. Let us know what the TC is. I was going to say Tennessee, but obviously not Tennessee.
Is it Minnesota Twins? No, I'm just
Well, no,
looking for colour scheme
TC.
on the
No.
side.
Oh yeah. Oh, here we go. It might
Toronto
be.
Blue Jays? No.
Well, oh, could Toronto's Canada, isn't it? It
Yeah,
could
but
be
it's over there.
Minnesota Twins makes sense.
Where's Minnesota?
Oh no, Minnesota's going to be. Yeah, it's Minnesota at the top, isn't it? I think it is Minnesota at the top. I think my geography's letting me down right now. I don't think it can be any
Just
other
to say
ones.
that Toronto Blue Jays are on that list. So they must be on that.
So they must have some influence somewhere, but I doubt it's anywhere near as big as what TC is. Let us know in the comments.
I don't know, because it is the border.
Maybe, I don't know.
I don't actually know, I can't. I can't see the Toronto Blue Jays anywhere on there, but don't think that's the same blue.
Toronto, nah, it's too light of a blue, isn't it? It's too light of a blue. I reckon it's Minnesota Twins. Yeah, I reckon it's Minnesota Twins. Yeah, I'm confident in that because the blue isn't on there.
Yeah.
Let us know in the comments what it is, but I think it's Minnesota Twins. I think you've nailed it first time. We sound like idiots if not.
Which is pretty large, but the sphere of influence includes the entire state of Georgia with about 10.5 million people, all of Alabama with about 4.5 million, all of South Carolina with over 5 million, Eastern Tennessee with over 5 million, and portions of Mississippi and North Carolina. So the overall Atlanta Braves sphere of influence is about 30 million people, which is about the same as a New York City baseball sports market. And whenever talks come up about possibly expanding the teams in Major League Baseball, the number one spot they always talk about is somewhere in the Southeast. So Nashville or Charlotte would be the most logical places for expansion because the Braves area is so huge and there's plenty of room for other teams in there.
Okay.
But that's only true for baseball. In other sports, the Atlanta market is significantly smaller. So, for example, in football, the Atlanta Falcons sphere of influence is nowhere near as large as the Braves.
That's mad.
There's separate
still
NFL
sports.
teams in both Nashville and Charlotte. So fans in Tennessee or the Carolinas tend to root for the teams in those cities
Makes
and not the
sense.
Falcons. Alabama still tends to lean a little more towards the Atlanta Falcons, but there are still plenty of fans in Alabama that root for the Tennessee team. And pro football fans in Mississippi tend to root for the New Orleans Saints. So the sphere of influence for the Atlanta Falcons is less than half of that for the Atlanta Braves.
Who are,
Another
which is
interesting example.
one from the OGs. That is technically my team. That's one for the OGs because we did a quiz, probably 3 years ago now? Did a quiz, got us before me, got the Saints, and they are technically my NFL team, and I will stick by that. I will always stick by that.
Kansas Chiefs because they won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, because you picked them in the Super Bowl, didn't you?
And we won.
And you won. Yeah, the Saints weren't nowhere near.
I won the Super Bowl.
High five.
Example I wanted to bring up is Green Bay, Wisconsin. And even if you're not a
You're
football
right.
fan, you've
Green Bay
probably
Packers.
heard of the Green Bay Packers. They're one of the most well-known teams in football.
I like the colour
And you may
scheme,
ask,
though.
how does Green Bay have a pro team? There's only about 100,000 people in the city, and there are only about 500,000 people in the entire Green Bay metro area. But the sphere of influence for the Packers goes well beyond Green Bay.
That's
It
really
pretty much
true.
extends throughout the entire state of Wisconsin, which includes the large metro area of Milwaukee, and the overall state has just under 6 million people.
Okay.
There are probably portions of northwestern Wisconsin where people root for the Minnesota Vikings, but there are also probably portions of the Michigan UP that root for the Packers. Now I want to discuss a few markets that in sports have traditionally been referred to as small markets, but in today's world where TV deals mean more than attendance, these places really can't be called small markets anymore.
Okay.
The first is Kansas City. The Kansas City metropolitan area has just over 2 million people, which is a relatively small metro for a pro sports team. However, the KC sphere of influence extends well beyond Kansas City.
Made it to
It
Jersey.
includes basically all of western Missouri, which has about 3 million
Oh,
people,
it did.
as well as the entire state of Kansas, which has about 3 million people. But it also
Go on,
extends
Kansas.
into parts of Nebraska, and many folks in the Omaha area root for the Kansas City teams. So the overall Kansas City sports market is about 6 to 8 million people or so, which
Oh,
makes
wow.
it not a very small market at all.
Very spread
The
out.
second
Yeah.
is Cincinnati, which also has a metropolitan area of just over 2 million people. But just
pretty
barely
bridge.
45 minutes up the road is the Dayton-Springfield metro area, which has over 1 million people itself.
Okay.
And then within Ohio, you have the Columbus metro area, which has over 2 million people as well, which is right in the middle of the state. It's hard to get a good gauge on this for sure, but I would say in Columbus, it's about 60-40 in favor of the Cincinnati teams over the Cleveland teams.
Okay.
Plus, Eastern Kentucky falls
Let us know
within
if you
the
agree.
Cincinnati sports sphere of influence. You go down to Lexington, you're seeing Cincinnati
jeez.
Reds and Bengal stuff.
Don't
all
make me
around
hungry.
town. And you also have quite a few folks in the Louisville area rooting for the Cincinnati teams. So just like Kansas City, I would say this sports market has
Ooh,
about
look at that
6 to
cheese.
8
tell
million
you-
people, which is
I am trying my hardest to listen to Geography King, but he's putting so many good photos on, and you keep getting excited for photos as well.
It's the food,
So we may have lost some things
not
what
the
we
people.
said.
I'm excited for the food.
No, I know what you mean. Yeah, but we've had some beautiful like shots of the city and stuff like that. Like
Yeah.
the bridge you pointed out, the other cityscape were beautiful. So it's his fault for putting up such good images because I'm
Yes.
getting a bit lost between them. But I am listening. You're just looking at pictures, aren't you?
I am listening, but I am
small
looking
at
at
all.
pictures as well. I
And the
can't do
third one
both.
in this
It's
same
hard.
group is Pittsburgh,
Look
which
at
also
that!
has a
Like, how
metropolitan
am I-
area of just
How am I meant to listen to him when that's on the screen?
That is beautiful.
Okay, now let's listen.
Now we all deaf.
Now let's listen.
And the third one in this same group is Pittsburgh, which also has a metropolitan area of just over 2 million people.
Okay.
But pretty much all of Western PA falls within the Pittsburgh sports sphere of influence. There's about 4 million people in the western part of the state. You also have plenty of Pittsburgh fans in the Youngstown, Ohio area. And pretty much all of West Virginia pro sports fans root for the Pittsburgh
Pirates.
Teams. All of my in-laws
it.
are in West Virginia, and they're all Steelers and Penguins fans. So
Pittsburgh
you're going to see
Steelers, you mean?
Pittsburgh sports
No, that's
stuff all
NFL.
the way down to Charleston, West Virginia. So just like Kansas City and Cincinnati, Pittsburgh's sphere of influence is about 6 to 8 million people. So all three of these have about the same metro area size, and all three have about the same sphere of influence size, and makes all three of them not small markets.
Got
And
it.
I also
That
want
makes
to make
sense.
special note of Oakland, California, which for years has been playing the Little Sisters of the Poor card when it comes to the size of their market. I don't know who you're trying to fool, Oakland, but you're located within the very large San Francisco Bay Area. It's just that the Oakland A's are the less popular team within that region. It would be like saying the Chicago White Sox or the New York Jets are small market teams because they're the less popular team in a large metro area.
Okay.
So which sports markets are actually small? Well, I would say there are only 6 small sports markets in the entire country.
Only
Between
6?
NFL, NHL, NBA, Major League Baseball, and Major League Soccer, about 150 teams or so total, there are only 8 teams that play in a small market. And I would use the cutoff for a small market as being 4 million people. That's kind of an arbitrary number, but there
That's
are
still
6
quite
markets
big.
that have
Yeah.
under 4 million, and then none in the 4 million range, and all the other ones have over 5 million. So there is kind of a
Like,
natural
I
break.
get it in the terms of the US, it's a small market then, but in the terms of like what we experience, that's still massive.
It's
4 million people rooting for one market.
There's a lot of people.
But the fact that only 9 teams, because he put 9 at the bottom, didn't he? Only 9 teams have less than 4 million like potential fans. That's quite mad.
It's mad.
And there's so many teams out there. Do you know what I mean? That is mad.
4 million. And I'm going to kind of count down these 6. And the 6th is Salt Lake City, Utah, which is home to both the Utah Jazz basketball team and the Real Salt Lake Major League Soccer team.
Okay.
The Salt Lake City metro area has about 2.5 million people, and its sphere of influence includes pretty much the entire state of Utah, which has
Look at
about
that.
3.2
It's
million.
nice.
But the reach for the Salt Lake sports teams does extend into portions of Wyoming and Idaho, but those are lightly populated areas, so the overall Salt Lake City sphere of influence is under 4 million. At number 5 is the aforementioned Buffalo area, which is home to both the football and hockey team.
Okay.
It's hard to get a good gauge on just how large the Buffalo sports sphere of influence is because
Ooh, that's
I'm not really
nice.
sure where Syracuse falls in terms of it's more New York City or more Buffalo, and also how many folks in southeastern Ontario are rooting for the Buffalo sports teams. But no matter how you slice it, the Buffalo sports market is under 4 million people.
Okay.
The 4th smallest market is one you might be surprised by, and that's San Diego.
Oh,
The
wow.
city of San Diego is the 8th largest
Lots
in
of
the
competition
US.
there.
Yeah.
San Diego County is the 5th largest in the U.S., and the San Diego metropolitan area is the 20th largest in the U.S. with about 3.4 million people. They only have one team, the San Diego Padres baseball team, but the sphere of influence doesn't extend past San Diego at all.
Tim
Ah,
Feet.
There are probably a
It's just that
handful of
location.
Padres fans in
But so
Orange
is
County
it.
and probably a few baseball fans in Tijuana as well, but overall, the San Diego metropolitan area is pretty much the entire sports market, which is about 3.4 million.
Wow.
The third smallest is Las Vegas, which is home to the Golden Knights hockey team and the Raiders football team. And yeah, there's a hockey team in
Too
Las
busy
Vegas.
partying.
I think that's a
Even if you
new
count
team,
the
though.
entire-
I'm pretty sure that's a new team. Like, when I was doing Hockey Reaction Show a couple of years ago, I think that was a new team. So maybe that will grow.
Maybe.
Especially with it being Vegas, with so many people visiting, you feel like the
Even
influence...
visitors will go,
Yeah, visitors will go watch them and potentially a bit more influence. Which I'm guessing. Let us know in the comments if that's right or not.
The state of Nevada, as part of the Vegas sphere of influence, there's only 3.1 million people. But because both of these Las Vegas teams are new,
Oh,
a
there
lot
we
of the
go.
fans in the Reno Lake Tahoe area are actually rooting for Northern California sports teams. So it's actually probably under 3 million people for the Las Vegas sphere of influence. But either way, it's a pretty small market.
Okay.
The second smallest sports market in the U.S. is the Sacramento Kings for basketball.
Okay.
Even though the Sacramento metropolitan area has about 2.5 million people, its sphere of influence doesn't really extend much farther than that. There are some Kings fans in Stockton and Redding and other parts of the far north of California, as well as the Reno Lake Tahoe area. But
Ooh,
overall,
that's
this
pretty.
sported market is about 3 million people.
Yeah, other people
And the
interested in other
smallest
teams
sports market
in
in the country
California.
belongs to the Jacksonville Jaguars of the NFL. The Jacksonville metropolitan area has about 1.5 million people, but they don't really have a large following outside of that northeastern portion of Florida.
Okay.
There are separate teams in both Tampa and Miami. Those tend to get the majority of pro football fans in Florida. There
Makes
are some
sense.
Jaguars fans in the Florida Panhandle and a few in the Orlando area as well. But overall, the Jaguars sphere of influence is barely 2.5 million people, making it the smallest in the country.
Wow.
So that's my analysis
Oh,
of
poor
sports
Jaguars.
markets in the U.S.
Poor Jaguars. They've got the least amount of fans, but that doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. No,
They
it's
might
just
have
the
the
number
most
at the end of the day.
dedicated fans.
May have the most dedicated fans. Let us know if you think that's true. Actually, no, that's a great. We know the sizes now. Let us know who you think has the most dedicated fans. Don't be biased. Everyone's going to be biased. But in your honest opinion, you got to pick another team what isn't yours. Who would you
How will
say
we
seems
know?
to have the most dedicated? Oh, we will never
Tell
know.
us what your team is, and
Just say
then
what your
tell us
team
what
is.
team you think is the most dedicated. Fans.
Yeah, so you could lie about both.
Yeah, you could, but I feel
But
like you're
don't
not
do
going to
that.
lie as much if you do that.
Don't do that. It's just the comments on YouTube video. It's not that
The only
deep.
people that suffer are you.
Smash that like button, guys. Smash the subscribe button, and watch the video.
Have a fantastic day.
And we'll see you, legends, in the next one. Peace.